Alright guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be continuing the mini-series I'm doing on atomic habits and basically just telling you guys my favorite ideas, concepts, and techniques from the book. Chapters 8 through 11 will be what I'm going over today. So the title for chapter 8 of the book is How to Make a Habit Irresistible. Now, one of the first lines or quotes that caught my eye is, "We have the brains of our ancestors, but temptations they never had to face." Some examples of this include porn, video games, junk food, social media, and it makes it really hard for us, especially if you're indulging in those things, to find dopamine and I guess even gratification in things that are a lot more meaningful and will have a more healthy impact on your life. So the strategy that James Clear gives for this part of the book is what he calls temptation bundling, where you will link an action that you don't necessarily want to do but you need to do, such as working out, to an action that you want to do. So the example he gives in the book is there's a guy that rigs up his indoor bicycle to his TV and his Netflix account, and he makes it so that if he's not pedaling it at a high enough speed, his Netflix show will pause, because what he wants to do is just binge Netflix all day, but he knows he needs to exercise, and so he comes up with a strategy to link an action he needs with an action he wants, and then he's able to win both ways. And also, if you watched yesterday's video, you heard about habit stacking, and this you can link with habit stacking. So the formula essentially is, after I blank or current habit, so fill in the blank there, I will blank habit I need. So after I play 1 hour of video games, I will work out for 1 hour. It's essentially just motivating yourself to do the things you know you need to do, and also be able to kind of reward yourself. And that's the best way for your brain to learn that it's good to do the things that you're trying to get into. So the formula for temptation bundling is, after habit I need, I will habit I want. So I already gave the example for that with, after I play video games for an hour, or after I work out for an hour, I will play video games for an hour. All right, the next part is chapter 9. And this chapter is about the role of family and friends in your habits. And I actually wrote down a lot on this chapter because I thought it was really interesting. And I spent about an hour and a half reading and writing so I could make this video and give you guys the most value possible. So if you're still watching at this point, I appreciate you, and I would really appreciate if you could watch till the end of the video and then let me know anything that stood out to you or anything you liked. So, the role of family and friends in your habits. I wrote down a quote here from the book, and it is, "Whatever habits are normal in your culture are among the most attractive behaviors you'll find." And he goes on to say that we imitate the habits of 3 groups in particular. The first group he calls the close, the people close to us, so family and friends, maybe work colleagues. They're close in proximity to us daily or weekly. The second group is the many, and the third group is the powerful. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the close. And what he writes is, your culture sets the expectation for what is normal. And this is pretty much just common sense, and it's all over the self-development and business world. But pretty much who you surround yourself with is who you're going to become. So if you are around a bunch of fit people all the time, working out isn't going to seem so crazy because everyone is doing it, and you are more likely to start. So in the book, he writes down a way that you can apply this, and I want to share that here. So what he suggests is you join a culture who, 1, already is doing something regularly that you want to do or make a habit, and 2, already has something that you have. So his example is, there's a guy that created a club for, specifically the book says, nerds who like a myriad of things, and that group is for people who are uncomfortable going to the normal gym, but they all share the same interests, and then they also work out. So if you were timid about going to the gym and you shared the interests of this group, you would go and you would hang out with them because you're more likely to start working out once you are hanging around with them and you already have something in common with them. So the second one is imitating the many. And the example in this part was actually pretty interesting. So there was a professor who did a study, and he had one student who was not aware of the study going on come into his class, and then he had a bunch of paid actors essentially who came in, and he just went through the class and he held up some cards, or he put the cards up on the screen, and one card had just one line on it and the other card had 3 lines on it. In the card with 3 lines, they were all different lengths, and he asked the class which of the 3 lines on the second card matched the line on the first card. And with varying amounts of actors in different scenarios, the one person changed what they said, even if they knew it was wrong, based on what everyone else said. So, for example, when the professor had one paid actor in there say the wrong answer, then the student that didn't know the experiment was happening said the correct answer. But as the numbers increased throughout the study, the student that wasn't in on it became increasingly confused and then eventually switched their answer. And so that just goes to show that you are trying to fit in with the many. So you can take this and use it to protect yourself against forming bad or unsatisfactory habits that are unproductive, or you can use this to start some better habits and keep them. Another example of this is chimpanzees who were cracking nuts in a specific way that was a lot more efficient and easy for the chimp. When that chimp was moved from that tribe of chimps to another tribe, it used the way the other tribe was cracking nuts because it didn't want to be singled out as the one that was doing it differently. It wanted to fit in because that ensures its survival a little more, and that is the same pretty much with humans. Now, the last one in this example is imitating the powerful. And obviously, we imitate who we perceive to be better or higher up in status than us because we want what they have, or we want to be to some degree who they are. We want their traits, we want their material possessions, we want their relationships, and so we imitate and try to embody what they're doing because we want it. Alright, now on to chapter 10. This chapter is about how to find and then fix the causes of your bad habits. So like I was saying before, we have our ancestors' brains with temptations they never had to face. He goes on to say in this chapter that your habits are modern day solutions to ancient desires. Now I wrote down quite a large section, so I'm just going to read it from my notebook. Even the tiniest action is tinged with the motivation to feel differently than you do in the moment. When you binge eat or light up or browse social media, what you really want is not a potato chip, a cigarette, or a bunch of likes. What you really want is to feel different. So when we're trying to set up a new habit that doesn't quite feel as good, maybe because we've already somewhat fried our brains with easy dopamine through substances, maybe other bad habits, social media, junk food. When we're trying to form a new habit that isn't as gratifying as quickly, changing the way you perceive it, which changes the way you feel it, will help a lot. So for example, if you are trying to start, in my example, say, you're trying to upload a video a day to YouTube, then when you are talking to yourself or to your family and friends about it, you don't say, I have to upload a video every day. You say, I get to. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's like dumb, like that doesn't work. But your language is very powerful and it does affect how you think. Another quote from him in this section is, habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings. The real trick here is just to change it from a burden into an opportunity. And the example that he put in the book for this section I think is really powerful, and for the people that are like, oh, changing have to get to doesn't really do anything. The example he gives is there's a man in a wheelchair and someone tells him, I'm sorry that you're in the wheelchair or something in a conversation, and the wheelchair man says, no, I get, they say, I'm sorry you're confined to your wheelchair. And he says, no, my wheelchair liberates me because without it, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And so that is a complete, frame shift where he has intentionally shifted how he's thinking about something that could be perceived as a burden into something that is an opportunity. The goal here is to reframe your perception to highlight the positive instead of the negative. Now, towards the end of the chapter, he has a way to essentially motivate yourself or condition yourself to have a certain reaction upon a certain stimulus that you are in control of. And the specific example he uses is if you really like to pet your dog and that's what calms you down, makes you happy, makes you feel more love inside, then you would take 3 deep breaths and smile and then pet the dog and do that over and over. And then essentially what he's saying is you'll condition yourself to next time you take 3 deep breaths and smile, you'll get the same reaction as you were when you were petting the dog. All right, on to chapter 11, and this is actually in part 3 of the book, but I hit my pretty much 50 pages mark for the day, so I decided to end it there. The title for chapter 11 is Walk Slowly but Never Backward. Now in this chapter, he immediately opens it up with a story about a photography class. And in this photography class, the teacher splits up the class, just randomly, into 2 groups. One group will be graded based on how many photos they take and submit during the semester. And the other group is graded on one singular photo. Now, group 1, who had to submit a volume of photos, they had to do more to get a good grade. At the end of the semester, the teacher found that they were submitting very high quality photos. Group 2, however, they submitted 1 photo, and according to the professor, it was mediocre. The 1 photo they submitted. So James Clear goes on to explain that this is because the people in group 1 were getting repetition, while the people in group 2 were just pretty much hypothesizing on, oh, what's the perfect photo? How do I get the perfect photo? And group 1 was out there trying to get the perfect photo, like they had enough practice. And so in this section, this chapter in the book, he introduces 2 new ideas. One is action and the other is motion. So when you are working towards something or thinking about starting to work towards something, he wants you to be taking action and not be in motion. And I'll explain the difference right now. The difference between motion and action, I'll start with motion because I thought that this was really interesting. Motion allows us to feel as if we're making progress without running the risk of failing. So for example, let's say you want to start writing a blog. Now you're doing a lot of research on writing the blog and it feels good because you feel like you're making progress towards writing your blog, but you didn't take action to write the blog. So really you haven't done anything. Now someone in the action category maybe just wrote a blog and put it up. And maybe their blog isn't that good. Let's call the person who wrote the first blog and just put it up person A, and the person who was doing research person B. Person A did a little bit of research and then just sent it and put the blog up. They posted it. And they do that once a week for a month. Now person B just does research. And then at the end of the month, they post their first blog. Now, a lot of people might think that person B would do a better job. And although for the first 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, that may be true. But if they post a blog once a month and they do a lot of research before, they will have 10 blogs posted in 10 months, where the person that is posting one a week will have close to 40 posted, 4 times the amount that the motion person has done. That many times more, they're bound to get a lot more experience, make more mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and when they're learning along the way, they have something to apply the knowledge to. It's not just all hypothetical in their head. They have an actual example of what they've done and how to apply the new thing they learned into their next blog and then the one after that and so forth. So James Clear says action plus repetition equals results and learning. Don't let perfection equal no real progress. And for me, these videos, if you're still here, like I said, I'm very grateful for you, but these videos aren't the best and I completely understand that. However, I'm hoping to increase my quality through quantity, which is what a lot of people in the space say, and I'm okay to put in the work and do that. Now, the next concept from chapter 11 that I want to share is that repetition is a form of change, and when something is difficult in the beginning, it's because, it explained this in the book, your neural pathways haven't connected strongly enough for that action. So let's say it's your first time washing the dishes. You're going to be a little bit clumsy, like you're going to be able to do it, but it's not going to be as confidently, as sure, as strong, or as efficient. But by the 100th time you're washing the dishes, you know the flow, you know how to hold the dish so it doesn't slip, you know how to hold the dish so you can scrub it very well. And that's because over the repetitions, your neural pathways and you're just wired from the repetition to do it a certain way, the most efficient way, because your brain is working for you in that aspect. And the term that James Clear uses for this is called automacity. He says it's the ability to perform each rep without thinking, and that comes from the number of reps. The last thing that he leaves in this chapter is the amount of time you have been performing a habit is not nearly as important as the amount of times you have performed the habit. And so obviously time will affect it because more time allows more times, but if you're trying to cement something that you can do multiple times a day, that will help create the habit and strengthen the habit a lot more than just doing it once a day for 100 days. If you can do it 3 times a day for 30 days, essentially it's the same amount of strength is what he's saying. And so you want to be able to perform that rep as many times as possible to strengthen the habit. All right, that's the end of the video, guys. I appreciate you watching this far. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.